Matthew's School of Fitness. He's gonna pump me up.
Gosh. Run in place.
Ready?
Throw some jabs in there.
Yo!
When I heard the news of my brother's death, I couldn't be more shocked.
I was at home. I think it was a Saturday night.
I was hanging out with a friend.
Friday night is when I found out.
I was on my way back from vacation when I found out.
The phone rang at about 4 in the morning.
My roommate waking me up, 5:30 in the morning on Friday, telling me the police were there.
I didn't believe it. I thought it was the worst joke ever.
I just didn't believe it. I said, that can't be him. It's a mistake.
I said, Dad, it's a rumor. That's crazy.
It made me speechless.
It was one of the worst days of my life.
I never imagined Matt would commit suicide.
He did not want to end his life. He loved life. He had a good life.
We all knew Matthew wasn't capable of this. A boy doesn't smile like that for 17 and a half years. And then 6 months later go and do this without any help.
In just these past few months, I have found that we are in the middle of an epidemic of the psychiatric drugging of our children. Across the world, there are 20 million children on some type of psychiatric drug. 20 million. And as shocking as it might seem, psychiatrists at a recent conference even admitted that they are diagnosing children at younger and younger ages.
From your personal experience, what's the earliest age that you could diagnose a child with a mental disorder?
It depends. Some disorders start in early childhood, some in adolescence, some in adulthood.
It's a very, very complicated question.
Earliest isn't really a criterion.
End of junior school, going towards high school.
13, 14.
Probably 6 and over.
6 and 7.
The age of 6.
5 or 6.
Age 5.
5 years.
3, 4, 5, 6 years of age.
Probably 4 or 5.
4 or 5.
4 or 5. When you look at a kid who's 4 years old and trying to diagnose him with ADD, how can you tell it's not just because they're 4 years old?
4 years, 3 years.
Very early.
2, 3, 4.
2 or 3 years.
The age of 2 or 3.
2, 3.
Toddler.
Before 18 months.
They can actually see signs as early as the age of 1.
It's a few months probably.
Babies.
The newborn.
Newborns.
In the uterus.
Pre-birth, that's what we wish.
Psychological problems start even when you are in the mother's womb.
It's disgusting that anyone would even think of giving a mind-altering drug to a young child with a developing brain. But what about the children drugged before they are even born? Another way that we're being drugged is through pregnant women. If they were to go in and have any type of, problem with their mood, as if any pregnant woman doesn't, they're putting them on these drugs. And Kristen, you've had firsthand experience with this and a terrible tragedy as well.
Right. I had been on antidepressants for 8 years, and so I have had 2 pregnancies on antidepressants. And so when we wanted to get pregnant with Indy, I asked my new physician if that is something that he recommends, is that I get back onto Zoloft, because I was on Effexor. In fact, I was on 300 milligrams of the XR every day, and he recommended that I stay on it, that there was no testing to show that there was any problems, that it doesn't get to the baby, that I would be fine. And so I took that as, you know what you're talking about, and I decided to stay on it. And then went into labor 2 months early. They stopped the labor. The doctor came over and said, and was shocked that my OB hadn't said that Effexor was dangerous during pregnancy. But he had immediately called down to the NICU and said that we have an Effexor baby and to be ready. And they were there.
That must have terrified you.
It did terrify me because I didn't know what we were up against at this point, but it was too late. It was too late. It was happening. And so when she was born, she wasn't breathing, and she wasn't she wasn't responding to anything. And at that point, you know, when they finally did get her to come around, it was almost like that part of the damage that I had done was over, that it was okay. Oh my gosh, she's safe, she's okay, she's breathing. And no doctor told me that, you know, through the breast milk, could she be getting any kind of the medication. We were in and out of, you know, the hospital because she had severe problems with jaundice. She had severe problems with vomiting. She was lethargic, and she would eat maybe 5 to 10 minutes and then fall completely asleep, to the point where we would have to jottle her over and over and over again just to get her to be coherent enough to eat again or want to eat. She wasn't gaining weight. We came up, well, the pediatrician wanted to put her on medication, and I told him no because she was a baby. And in the whole time I was giving her medication through the breast milk, and okay with that. She didn't even have a voice. She couldn't tell me that anything was wrong. You know, I should have seen, and I should have put it together, but I didn't.
But that wasn't your role. That was the role of the
doctors, and there were plenty of them around to be able to tell you that this could affect your baby.
Well, and you think about it, you don't drink, you don't smoke, you don't, drink caffeine, you watch what, you take good vitamins. Why would you drug yourself? It goes right to the baby. And that just didn't...
It's called a medicine.
It's a medicine.
They call it a medicine, so it seems like a good thing. You're supposed to. It's going to do nothing but good for you. And that's not what it does. It's as bad as all those other things or worse.
Well, that's what I've said to my, to some people, is what's the difference between going to the guy on the corner selling heroin and going to my doctor? Because it's going to do the same thing.
I did the same thing. I breastfed for 4 months on Zoloft. And the whole time they told me it was safe, and the only problem was watch out for sedation. But they never said, because sedation could kill your baby. Your baby might not ever wake up.
No child should be lost that way, and especially with breast milk, mixing all these drugs in it is just a recipe for death. It really is.
If you think about it, you wouldn't go to the store and buy a bottle or a can of formula that says, with Zoloft, feed this to your baby.
You wouldn't.
Nope. Yeah, so I think of, and what I think of is all those babies that have been, claimed SIDS. How many of those mothers have been on medications and just don't know any better? I know they're out there.
Of course they are. Of course they are. And there'll be more. There'll be a lot more, unless they are informed. It's hard to think of a story sadder than Christian's. And what's even more outrageous is that pregnant women are increasingly being targeted by screening campaigns that can get them onto psychiatric drugs. 1 in 6 pregnant women today is diagnosed with a depressive disorder, and most are put on antidepressants, which means over 500,000 babies every year, born and unborn, are exposed to chemical toxins. And now, psychiatric researchers are trying ultrasound to supposedly diagnose bipolar disorder in babies still in their mother's womb. The problem with drugging pregnant mothers with antidepressants like Paxil is it dramatically increases the risk of preterm delivery and doubles the chance of birth defects, such as heart malformations. If I hadn't seen for myself what was going on, I would never have believed it. Psychiatric drugs are obviously not the answer, and yet they are practically everywhere. But if drugs aren't the solution, what is? After all, Matthew was having trouble. His problems were very real. What should I have done for him? For this, I flew to Minnesota to ask Dr. Gary Coles, a medical doctor and an authority on the dangers of psychiatric drugs.
Dr. Coles, if I had brought my son Matthew to you, what would you have done?
Well, he surely would never have been on a drug. You know, I would have spent an hour and a half with him at first to try to find out what the root causes were. Make sure he didn't have some physical problem for sure, hypothyroidism, for instance, or...
So you would have done some basic blood work and physical exam?
Sure, because there's so many things as far as nutrition are concerned, and that can lead to sadness or social situations. What kind of stress was he under, etc. What kind of diet he was under. You know, if we're well nourished and being jilted by a girlfriend or something might not affect us, but if we're malnourished, that might make us angry or depressed or aggressive. Yeah. So I would have taken an extended history. That would have been the most important thing. And then probably if he hadn't had any laboratory tests, I would do some sort of laboratory testing to make sure he wasn't anemic, make sure he didn't have electrolyte abnormalities, make sure that he didn't have any urinary or kidney problems, etc. Make sure he didn't have a brain tumor. All those sorts of things.
So many things that could and should have been done before he was put on a drug.
In my practice in the last 10 years, I never had to put a person on a drug.
Right. Doctor, are there any other underlying causes that you can think of that could have been at the root of Matthew's problem, or other people that go in with these symptoms?
Even though it's most likely some combination of the things we've talked about already, there are certainly physical illnesses, infectious diseases that can contribute.
Allergies? What if there was...
Sure, could be allergies, bacterial infections, mercury in the vaccines, aluminum in the vaccines.
Matthew's room was in the basement, it's a finished basement. Now, there were windows in his room, but still, it gets musty down there. There's
mold.
Are there things that could have...
Toxic fumes, of course. And carpets will have all sorts of toxins in them, funguses and things like that. Mold and mildew are toxic to the body and probably the brain. So there's a list, I'm sure, of hundreds of physical bacterial illnesses that maybe can contribute to chronic fatigue or sadness, perhaps, or lack of energy. So there's a lot of holistic approaches to physical health, mental health, spiritual health, everything. And drugs just alter the brain. You know, they never cure anything, and then they make you permanent patients, which is great for business and bad for patients. And suicide, completed suicide, is just one of the thousands of adverse effects that the industry refuses to acknowledge. So our brain nutrition is extremely important in mental ill health, getting people off the drugs, good nutrition. That's the way to cure, and then you have lost a patient for life. But that's what doctors are supposed to do.
That's what your goal is supposed to be.
We're supposed to cure people and not make them chronically ill and requiring monthly visits for the 2-minute prescription.
Thank you so much for sharing everything that you know with us.
You're welcome.
It was really wonderful to meet you.
What are you doing?
Say hi to the camera.
Hey.
Say hi.
I have a million #1 things that I miss about Matthew. I can't go on a list.
I miss the camaraderie. I miss him at the kitchen table. I miss him at Christmas.
I miss the things that we did together.
Everything. His presents.
I just wish he was still here. I know how much fun he'd be having. I know he would love to see Ryan's little boy and my niece and be there for his family and us.
Next week when I see my other 2 brothers, as much as everybody's gonna be there, we're still gonna be one man down.
You know, a part of us all went with him, and that part is sorely missed. It is achingly missed.
I don't like that all the people closest to me have got a huge hole and a huge ache that doesn't go away.
They were amazing. love for each other. It just tore all apart. For some drug companies, bottom line.
My friends get to visit their brothers at college, and they have their little brothers on speed dial. And I have to visit mine in a cemetery because someone made a decision that this information wasn't going to make them money. Is what it came down to. Or it wouldn't get their drug approved. So I visit my brother in a cemetery on his birthday, and on my birthday, and on Christmas, and any random day of the week. I go there. But I won't see him get married, and I won't see him have kids. And he won't be there for me when I do those things. Because he's not here.
We've talked a lot about the devastating side effects and of these psychotropic drugs, what they've done to us and to our families, and how we've had to live with the effects of them. But there are other alternatives to taking those drugs, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about what they are and what experience you might have with them. Sheila, you didn't put your son on drugs. You elected not to do that. What did you do to help him to get through his situation?
I did tutoring, and basically I took my son there twice a week, and they worked on educational issues such as sequencing. What I found out was that he had a real problem with his language. So it was like a very positive approach to his behavioral issues, because they were underlining educational issues that were not being addressed in the classroom. He needed more one-on-one, which he wasn't getting.
So it was probably making him feel inferior, or, you know, this helped to boost his confidence and made him do better in school.
He did much better in school, and it really helped his self-esteem, and I saw a big improvement. So I did a lot of the educational resources.
And I was just going to add that some students, like in the way the classrooms are, they don't necessarily fit in well, and a lot of parents are now doing homeschooling because their children don't have the pressure of what the school system wants, and I think that for some people that's a really great solution.
I say exercising is a wonderful way to, you know, relieve the stress and to...
There is a study that I found one time that was talking about how great exercise is for you. And when I looked into the study, I found out that they had a group with medication and a group with exercise and medication, and then just an exercise group. The exercise groups did the best, but it's promoted as though they're equal. Right. And it's very deceptive because they're not equal. The exercise worked in the study and the medication did not. It made them worse.
Why not take the kid out onto the playground and let them play for 5 minutes? This may be a child who is just wired to need a little bit more physical activity, like your daughter.
Let him with a ball or climb on the monkey bars.
Let him go do that for 5 minutes and then return to the learning activity. It doesn't have to be a fight to make our children learn, for our children to function in everyday society. If that's what that child needs, and let's find a way to give it to them. Let everybody be right, so that we can all function here. So there's so much we can do. It's nutrition, it's exercise, it's stuff that our grandparents would have used.
True, because that's what I did with my son. Start putting a lot of vitamins, all the B vitamins, and nothing else. No medication, nothing. And he heals so fast, unbelievable.
Well, that's another thing. You know, we need to look at blood tests. We need to check for, like you said, medical reasons first. We need to look at what alternatives we can use and not go with medication. There's so many things we can do. We brought up so many points here, and none of them involving medication.
Matthew's got the ball.
Go get Annie!
He's gonna take him to the hole. He's gonna smoke him.
Come on.
And the crowd goes wild. And little Stu buries his brother. 22-20.
He was my little brother. I remember the day that he became not so much cooler, but just my equal. Like, I remember the day where everything flows downhill, you start beating up your little brother, but I remember the day that he actually looked at me and said no more. And we started looking at each other as equals. You want to go on vacation, you want to do this together, you want to do that together, and just, he started becoming my best friend. And he shouldn't have been so on these pills that it fucked him up. I mean, like, one day he's way happy and then the next day he's just way out of his mind, sad. And I'm just like, what's wrong, man? What's going on? And it's just, one day we're best friends and the next day he just don't even know who he is anymore. I didn't know what to do, so I just leave him alone. I tell him all the time, I miss him. I miss him. I wish he was here. I wish we didn't have to do this shit for him. Like, it just sucks, man. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like what it's made me. I don't like what it's made my family. It's destroyed us, man. Like, in a sense, it's grown us tighter as a family, but in a sense, it's just fucked everything up, man. It's just ruined everything. Oh, fuck.
Every April 25th, we get together to celebrate Matthew's birthday. We make a cake, share fond memories, and remind ourselves of how lucky we are to have known him.
We love him, we miss him, and we are so grateful for all of you who have supported us through this.
You could say it's our way of healing, but the pain never really goes away. Of course, we aren't the only ones. There are all the brave women I had met who continue to speak out in spite of the emotional hurt it must bring them. They were all so moving. Sheila, who fought her entire school district for the right to leave her child unmedicated. Irma, who got her son out of a psychiatric hospital where he was involuntarily incarcerated after a mix-up of medications gave him hallucinations. Matthew, whose daughter killed herself while on psychiatric drugs given to her only because she was nervous before tests. Vicky, whose poor, sweet little girl died in her arms. Amy, whose violent drug reaction toward her own baby should frighten any new mom. Christian, who was assured she could take psychiatric drugs while pregnant, and whose baby, Indiana, paid the ultimate price. Karen, bringing her foster children back from the depths of psychiatric drug toxicity. And of course, my daughter Annie, Matthew's sister and best friend, without whom I couldn't have made it through this process. These are my friends, and if there's one lesson I have learned from them, it's that as parents, we are the last line of defense for our children. Because when something goes wrong, the mental health professionals are never around to pick up the pieces. Our children need us, and yet, in a strange sort of way, we need them even more.
All of us have one thing in common, and that's that we love our children. What's so great about your kids? What do you love about them the most?
I love that they're unconditional. They unconditionally love. Doesn't matter if I have a bad day or a good day, they're always there to make everything better.
They're so innocent. They come to you, they hug you, they kiss you, no matter what's going on around the world. And as a parent, that's the most beautiful thing we can receive, a hug from our children.
I think they're trusting. They trust you.
They're innocent.
And they think you hung the moon, I don't know.
Yeah.
Until someday it turns around and you know it's actually they that hung the moon.
My niece and my nephews are the most fun, and it's like they make you feel alive more than you feel on your own, more than you feel when you're with a bunch of adults. They bring out the kid in you all over again, you can laugh with kids and have fun with kids.
I like how they're never worried about anything. They're just always laughing and playing and
I hope they get a little bit older, because I don't know how many times I've said to Caroline, honey, just breathe. My kids are my reason for living. And I thank God every day for Caroline, because she was the driving force to help me move forward, and for teaching me to be strong. Because if I needed Caroline to be strong, I had to be that example of strength for her.
It's the way with my sons too. They gave me the strength to be a better person, be a better parent, and to, you know, just the smiles.
I mean, I think our children come and they have lessons to teach us, and I'm such a different person now than I was before.
They teach us a lot of good values in life.
I kept thinking back to my children and what the other mothers had said about theirs. Their smiles, their imagination and creativity, and their boundless energy.
My name is Tyler Milford, and I am 11. My age is 7 years old. Actually, just make that 7.5. I'm 8 years old, and I want to be a chef at a 5-star restaurant. I'm going to be an orthopedic surgeon. When I grow up, I want to be a geologist.
I would like to become a professional basketball player.
Professional clothes designer. I want to be a musician, a actress, director, a teacher, dancer, and a singer. I'd go for speed skating if I wanted to. I'm really good. I just want to keep practicing and practicing until I know I'm perfect at it, and then do something big.
Yes, I plan to get an Oscar.
I was hoping that it would be like the funnest thing that I would do in my life.
Losing a child is the worst thing that could ever happen to a parent. Children are not just another market segment for psychiatry. They need protection, they need guidance, they need love. They don't need psychiatric drugs. And I'm going to tell that to as many people as I can.